I've seen lime green kitchens, red splashbacks. I've seen everything, right? Real hanging stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, it's got to be part of the value because it's fixed and permanent. Every home has the money shot, and that money shot is what adds the value.
Welcome to These Four Walls, the podcast that talks to real buyers and experts about the hardest, weirdest, and most surprising parts of buying and owning a home in Australia. We'll help you figure out what's going on in the world of property and what to do next.
Hi everybody, this is Dimitri. Welcome back to These Four Walls. Today I'm with Belinda Botzolis, one of Australia's most trusted voices in property. So first up, our listener letter. Now this comes from Lisa in Coffs Harbour. She says, "Dear TFW, when we got our first place 4 years ago, the agent said it was an absolute steal. I've since had 3 different online estimates in the past 6 months, and they've all given me different results. I even had an agent who told me that our place is worth less than our neighbours, even though we have a brand new kitchen. Now, I'm not looking to sell just yet, but it's pretty difficult not to get fixated on the numbers. Belinda, welcome. This, I'm sure, is a scenario you hear quite frequently.
Yes,
What are
I
your
do.
thoughts?
Well, thank you for having me,
Absolutely.
firstly. I'm excited to be here. I do this letter is could be written by anyone, actually. It's hard when it's objective and it's your own home and there might be some emotional attachment. Little things can add difference in value. How comparable are they? Like for the land, for the improvements, for the number of bedrooms, for the size of the home, for the aspect. Is there a slightly different view? Anything like that could really change the value. If she did go through the bank, ask to have a valuer come through, physically come through. You can always knock it back and object, not a problem. If not, try a different approach, I guess, or get, an independent valuer or, it's a little hard when they do vary so much when a physical valuer hasn't come through.
Yeah. I guess it's much easier to hear if your house is worth what you thought it was or more. Maybe a little bit sour to take if it was a little bit less.
Yeah.
So many thoughts straight away, but one thing I wanted to quickly touch on is obviously AI is becoming extremely prevalent in society today. Are we seeing, in your view, more accurate valuations as a result, or is it muddying the waters in some sense?
It's pretty accurate in for example, an entry-level home in an area where they're all like for like. So think about like in your house and land package areas or those type of areas where all the lands are similar, land sizes are similar, the houses are similar, pretty easy. Yeah. As a valuer, it is just like, love doing these. You kind of you're spoiled for sale, spoiled for everything. Now, if you were to take that approach into the eastern suburbs, for instance, you could find that you have a $7 million house next door to a $15 million house on the same street as a $40 million house. Now, unless that is objectively valued independently and assessed, is really hard to have your AI come in and do that. So there is a time and place for it. I'm all for it. I love, this stuff excites me. I love it. But you have to be a bit careful how and where you apply it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You made reference a second ago to just, get in touch with your bank, ask for a valuer to come out. I've had a couple of valuations done on my place because I've pulled out equity a couple of times. What's the proportion of valuations that you do at the moment that actually involve you coming out to the property and inspecting it versus just what's available online?
As a valuer, you should be coming out and inspecting all your properties unless you're instructed otherwise. So a bank may ask you to do it via desktop or a curbside or an internal inspection. And we're also having an exciting new product coming out. Some of the val firms are jumping aboard Smart Val, where it is a bit of a hybrid situation where the owner can kind of do a video and send through a whole bunch of information and photos. Yes. And then the valuer assesses it rather than going, okay, well, I'll do it remotely and I don't really know what's inside because how do I know if these photos are updated? So there is new products coming out all the time. But, I think if you're not happy with it, get your bank to order an in-person one.
So then when you do come out, what are those things you're using, you're looking for? Talk me through your process. How do you actually go about putting a dollar value on a home?
the broker putting in that we call the EMV. So the first thing you ask as a valuer, valuer terminology, everybody, what's the EMV? What's the estimated market value? And this aid sort of determines where we start our research. So a valuer will have a patch. That's what we call it. So if you live in the eastern suburbs, you might have an eastern suburbs valuer. If you're then in the inner west, if you're then in the Hills district, this is all in Sydney, by the way, you'll have a valuer that just does those areas day in, day out. So they know the sales like the back of their hand. And then when we come through, you got to remember valuers do between 5 and 10 inspections a day, 5 days a week. They know within 5 minutes if it's a good floor plan, what type of home it is, and their brain does not stop. You're just scanning, because they do this all day, every day. Then they do their inspection on the iPad. They apply their research or their sales, and they can pretty quickly send that report off to the bank. So you should be able to get your report on the same day.
Yeah, okay.
The valuation to the broker. So that's typically the process. You start your research, you do your inspection, you tidy it up on the back end, apply your findings, and then send it off.
Okay.
And then that's your opportunity to agree or disagree with the val, I guess.
Right. And generally speaking, who's agreeing or disagreeing with you?
Mostly disagreeing, yeah. Everyone thinks their home's worth more.
It's the homeowner in most cases?
Most cases, yeah. And it's hard because I've had my own home valued and I'm like, oh, it's a moving market, prices are going up, it's worth more. And then the valuation came back and I'm like, what does the valuer know? They undervalue everything. And then I asked to get a copy of the report and I see the sales, and because I understand a report, a bank valuation report is a very specific document, and you pick it up and go, I have no idea what all this is, like boxes and risk ratings and all sorts of stuff. You just understand the figure. And then when I had a look at it and read through it, I was like, yeah, okay, I see where it came from. Fair.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So I could understand his methodology and why. And as valuers, this is really important. We know your home could probably sell for more. We just can't prove it to the bank. And the bank need to have the evidence to lend you the money. It's a very different document to what a real estate agent would tell you.
It's that classic line you hear when someone asks, what's my place worth, or what someone else is prepared to pay for it, right?
So it's not just what someone's prepared to pay for, it's also what you're prepared to accept as well with an arm's length transaction. Right, meaning that it's been open and exposed to the market, because you can get some out of line sales, and we all know that. That's that house that you see in your suburb, and you kind of scratch your head and go, "How the heck did that get that much?" Backstory: parents lived next door. They wanted that house. They wanted to build after a specific block, and they just had a settlement, and they had all this money, and they had money wasn't enough.
Came into a windfall, whatever it is. Yeah. Specific circumstances that can drive the value up.
Yeah, that's not market. So we have to then be objective and go, okay, we have to maybe disagree with that sale a little bit, and because we don't believe it's at arm's length, and that's the role of the valuer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my mind, there's probably 3 main things that would drive the value of my home: how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and how many car spots. Fundamentally, that's pretty simplistic. When you walk in, and as you mentioned, valuers are constantly scanning how much of this is true compared to the research that I've done. I think many Australians, I think it's fair to say, have a sense that kitchens, as an example, sell a home. Mm-hmm. How true is that, would you say?
It's pretty true.
Yeah.
So I would say every home has the money shot, and that money shot is what adds the value. So think about when you're scrolling, you're sitting on your couch on a Saturday and you're scrolling through your phone. What is it about that property that makes you stop and look at it? And it's always the money shot. It's always the bit where you hit your partner or your friend or whoever's next to you and go, whoa, check this out, yeah? Even if it's a dream home you'll never be able to afford, you always stop at that photo. And it's not so much now just the kitchen, it's the feel of that heart of the home. I think it has bled into the living, dining, al fresco space.
Okay, living areas, yeah.
Yeah, it's how we live in the home, and that stems from the kitchen being the heart, But if you have an incredible kitchen and it's isolated kind of on its own and a bit detached from the rest of the house, not really going to do it for you, right? But if that house is then open up to like an amazing kitchen, living, dining, and then it gives you, it's like everything now, it's how it makes you feel in the space that you're living in.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, on that thread then, I think I've got a pretty good idea of what a really good example of that might look like. What if we flipped it on its head? What's some stuff that you pick out often that maybe homeowners wouldn't necessarily see as something that could be negatively perceived in their valuation?
Believe it or not, like how you keep your home maintained, okay? For instance, there could be let's have 3 homes side by side, and they're all relatively built around the same time, same condition. Let's say they all went to one of those house, display homes, and they all built the exact same home. One home, they are so pedantic about a house is immaculate. Everything is in its place, the floors are tidy, the kitchen immaculate. Second home, they, just a regular family, they live in it, a few scuffs and marks on the wall, just a regular home. And then the third one, they're really rough with the house. Scratch the floors, don't care, dogs running around, the glass is dirty, every corner has a bit of a scuff mark on it. The doors, the kitchen cabinets are hanging a little bit. Each home should be identical because they're the same location in theory, the same land size in theory, and the same quality of improvements in theory. So a lot of the time, this is where a lot of misconception is. People don't see their home, because they live in it every day.
Yes.
And they'll say, oh, but my home's the same as the one down the road. Well, technically it is. However, the condition, what they don't understand, it really hasn't been that well maintained. Then you have to put yourself in the buyer. Buyers coming through and they're like, oh, I have to fix this, fix that. I have to paint. I have to change some of the doors. It's got scratch marks everywhere. The floors are damaged. And all of a sudden they're just doing cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It all adds up. It's a bit like, I said this analogy the other day. Say you're buying a car, right? And it's got a scratch and you can get it fixed for like $800 and you go to the person, just take $5,000 off the price. Come on, it's $800. Yeah, but I got to take my Saturday off. I got to leave it there.
That's a really good example.
Yeah, it's the same as a house. So even though in your mind you're like, this stuff will get fixed for $20,000, someone might even take $100,000 off the price. And that's where you got to be really careful about understanding market value and market perception, meaning how would people see your home? You don't mind it. Who cares, right? I live like this. So what? It's my life. Good. That's fine. But if you go to sell it, don't expect.
Well, you're inviting people in, right?
Your home's a product.
To judge, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like a jumper. It's like a pair of shoes.
That's a really interesting, actually, I've never thought of it that way. Your home as a product.
Yeah.
Talk me through that. What are your insights there? I've never thought of my home as a product before.
So you live in it. It's your home, okay? No one should ever tell you how to live, honestly. Like you do you. I've seen lime green kitchens, red splashbacks. I've seen everything, right? Some questionable stuff in some of the bedrooms, but we're hanging stuff and I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be part of the value because it's fixed and permanent and it's not coming off. And you do you. But now the minute that comes on the market, it no longer belongs to you. It is now for the next person to buy, okay? And you have put it on now on the market. And the market is just like a fruit market, a supermarket is on the shelf together with all the other properties out there, again, on the market. And the market buyers are just like a buyer. It's human beings looking to buy something to satisfy a need.
Looking to get the right watermelon from the fruit market.
And they're banging it and they're shaking it and everyone's got you see the watermelon section, one guy's patting it, another guy's shaking it, someone else is like side to side. Everyone's got their method, right?
That's right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So again, you do you, but your home, at the end of the day, it's just bricks and mortar on a piece of land that someone is putting a value on. A human being is looking to purchase that.
You guys look stuck.
Yeah. We're afraid to move.
Let me guess. You found the perfect place before you've sold? Aussie helps you buy first and sell when the time is right, so you won't miss the right home.
Find out how an Aussie bridge loan could help you.
Let's do a bit of a role play. Pretend I'm coming to you for your thoughts. I'm looking to get my place ready to sell. I've got a relatively limited budget, 10 to 15 grand. It's a pretty hard budget. Can't really go any higher than that. Where should I be looking to make improvements first with that budget?
So we'll go on a really, really, really low level and then I'll get a little bit more niche. I say this all the time, and I know it sounds cliche and everyone's like, oh my God, Belinda, you don't have to be a genius to work that out. Coat of paint. Just paint it. A fresh coat of paint is, even the smell of paint people love because it just means that they save the money, and they don't need to spend it. Especially like you could be a buyer for an owner or buy as an investor. That's more money in your pocket because somebody else has done that for you. Landscaping's a big one. I would say, again, it's the facade. It's the entry into your home. And I'm not talking about, retaining walls. I'm just talking about going to your local Bunnings, Facebook Market, wherever you go, get some mulch, get some basic plants and just make it really nice and neat. Maybe lay some turf or something down. Hire someone to really come in and like manicure your existing garden. Front and backyard. And I would start there and then I would then think about, do I need to do the floors or, kitchen? Now, a bit more on a micro level. If the home's okay, but the kitchen is a little bit old or the bathroom's old, I would then isolate one or the other to do it. And it all comes back on your market and other homes in the area. Okay, because if you're in an area that is a little bit aging, it is a little bit old, and every other home has a similar kitchen to yours, and they're all sort of selling the same price, it might not make a bit of a difference. But if everyone's leveled up and you're left behind, looks like the market will pay for something a bit nicer. And that's where I say, even if your budget is 15, might mean squeeze a little bit more to make more. But if it's just a matter of doing the bare minimum, then do the bare minimum.
Do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
On this sort of similar vein, I think people often talk about the idea of being afraid to spend too much because they're worried about overcapitalising. How do you understand that? What sort of advice can you give someone that might be worried about that as a scenario?
That was the number one question I got asked that prompted me to go out on my own, I'll be honest with you, was because as a valuer, we'd go to people's homes when I used to do bank vows and they would want to see how much equity they got to then do a renovation. And I'm in their home and they're like, oh, this is what we were thinking of doing. What do you think? And I would just tell them, oh, yeah, I do this, I do that. And I would get questions all the time. And I think I turned to my husband. I was like, babe, do you reckon they'd pay me for this advice? And he's like, I don't know, ask. So I would like, just $50. What do you reckon? And then he's like, okay, you might need to up it a bit there. And I'm like, $1,000? And then no one's biting. I'm like, okay, we have to find a happy medium here. And as a value, you think everybody knows this, but they don't. And I would say that don't look at your Pinterest and your Instagram and the block and shows like that to see what you think you need to do, because what you think you need to do might be very different to what you actually have to do. So if you're home, if you're selling something that belongs in a fruit market, your immediate market is your neighborhood and your suburb. Stay within your shop, I guess, because people that are shopping are looking around. So they're shopping in your area, analyze what's selling in your area and try not to overcapitalize from there.
Yeah.
Or you might be undercapitalizing where you're like, oh, crap, I need to step it up because everybody else is. That's my shop, that's my market, and analyze it from there. I want to know who the buyer is, how old are they likely to be, what's their annual income, do they have kids, what's their religion, and religion's important, and people are like, why do you care? I'm like, I don't care.
It's actually really interesting, yeah.
So I like to analyse religion because let's say, I give you an example, I analysed Rose Bay. And it was a high percentage of the Jewish faith, and perhaps you do a kitchen because they could kosher cooking. Yeah, kosher. So make sure that the kitchen's kosher, right? I'm not of the faith, but I would like to get an interior designer to help me. Again, it's a product, and I would like my buyer who's potentially of the faith to, again, take that home and put it in Lakemba, and you might have someone of the Islamic faith. I would maybe put a bidet next to the toilet. if you've ever been to Bali, you know that, I'd maybe incorporate a prayer room. I would like my product to satisfy my client. Another thing, certain backgrounds don't like carpet. So if you're like, do I put carpet in the bedrooms? I'm like, well, who's your demographic, right? Do I put tiles or floorboards? Well, who's your demographic? Do they want floorboards? Do they want tiles? So it's about understanding who your market is and delivering them. And again, not all your buyer is of that faith or, that culture. So you don't want a prayer room because you're not of the faith. Study,
Sure.
toy room,
Sure.
spare bedroom. No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, those spaces like that can be flexible, right? Yeah.
Yeah, or have a butler's pantry that's a kosher style, style. But if I bought it, who cares? I got two ovens, two cooktops, two dishwashers. Sweet. When I have a big party, I got a pretty, awesome setup here. So you make sure that you target your market, but you don't isolate everyone else. Yeah.
I'm interested to learn from you. How much time are you spending at the moment doing what you're doing now, educating versus going out and valuing?
50-50.
Wow.
Yeah. So on social, I'm the valuer.
Belinda the Valuer.
But I don't do a lot of valuing. Ironic. Only because I started all this because of this education. And it's pretty fascinating how different valuers think to just everyone else. And everyone else is out there and there's no valuers. And I'm like, hold my beer, move out of the way. This is,
So going back a second to when we were talking about aesthetics and first impressions and how crucial that can be, what about when that stuff's not there, but there are good bones? What does that look like in reality?
Good bones can sometimes be the difference when you see, wow, that old home got such a great value. Mine's heaps better and newer than that, objectively to you, should be worth more. But what you don't see is that home had good bones, meaning it had the right 3 things you can't change ever on a property. You can never ever change the land size. You can never ever change the orientation, and you can never ever change the location. So that's part of the bones of the home too. So if that home has ticked those 3 boxes, you're more than halfway already there. And if the house is something that, because when you come to renovate, you can either have and sometimes it grinds my gears when you have a lot of people like, oh, we renovated. I'm like, dude, you basically did a new build. Back in the day, you could buy a home, do a reno for $200,000 and boom, add $500,000 on it. Now you spend $500,000, you add $500,000 and you're like, cool, you're back where you started. Still some really smart renos out there, but they're the ones that didn't have to build or add on or extend.
Right.
They're the ones that just, stayed with what they had because the home was already awesome and they just tweaked. Obviously, these might be a little extension or something, but I'm not talking about those
substantive changes to layout and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Superficial renovations, but really sort of.
Yes. Yeah. So if you can, a knockdown rebuild is always going to have a time and place, but the homes that you want to make some money on as a homeowner for equity and as an investor for, whatever purpose, the less you fiddle with, the more chance you have to add value.
Okay. It was interesting. When I thought good bones, my mind went straight to, is it double brick? What are the walls made of? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the 3 immovable, unchangeable characteristics being what they are, I never thought of it that way. What's your perspective on the way that the home's oriented, like which way it faces? What's the best, really?
North always gets a premium. Yes, sunny photo. I, as a valuer, I was taught north and I was like, okay, whatever. And then first unit I bought, I was quite young. I just wanted to get into that street and into that block and into that price range because that's all I could afford. And I bought this unit and it was south facing and I didn't really think until I lived in there for one winter and it was no sunlight and I was cold. And then I swore that every home after that had to be some sort of north orientation and it was I wouldn't even entertain an open inspection, didn't care how good it was. So for every 10 buyers, you might find that 5 don't care, but 5 is a hard no. So you're almost isolating 50% of your market. And that would be more of your seasoned homeowners or seasoned investors understand that the value in a north-facing yard, north-facing apartment would definitely get a premium. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'll pay $1 million more, but it might sell faster, it might sell for a little bit more, and it might have more appeal, and that can definitely affect the value.
Yeah. How can we think about that? How can homeowners think about early on in their home ownership journey, attempting to build that equity as soon as they can?
I think firstly, stop listening to property influencers that are like, we only buy under market for our clients. Under market properties below market value, we got a vow done. And any valuer worth their weight in gold would not value a property more than what the market has paid for it immediately after purchase to get that uplift in value. Absolutely no. If they're saying that, whoever's saying that, they're probably full of hot air. It's a nice way to put it. That is because if that property was exercised properly on the market and the market has seen it and spoken, a willing buyer and a willing seller negotiated on the price, shook hands, and that's the value of that property, okay? Now, there are times when you can get good buying, not necessarily undervalued, but I would say has the opportunity to add value because the market didn't see value in it at the time. And that's usually those homes that need a little bit of sprucing up. So it's finding, not trying to get a bargain and lowballing the agent and putting a lower offer in and hoping to get, think of the home as a product, like what is it not serving and how do you make it serve? And then that's how you add the equity into that property because the market is looking at it going, not really my style, like good try, but no, I'd rather at that price point spend a little less and get something a bit better. That's when you get that under market value. Then you do the reno and then you get it revalued. And it's always the difference between what you owe on it and what it's valued. And I always say to people, the only person or the only thing stopping you from getting money out of your home or getting equity in your home is a valuer. Impress the valuer, not yourself or not your friends on Facebook because you're renovating it and posting all your cool photos.
All your mistakes.
What does the valuer care? Because unless you sell it, they're the ones that are stopping you from getting your money out. And we just want to make sure that it serves the market. So
I find it interesting how this conversation has naturally gone towards preparing to sell or preparing to refi. Like I mentioned earlier, I had a couple of valuers come out from various lenders and over the course of the last couple of years provide some valuations because I wanted to pull some equity out.
Yeah.
That's not the only time valuers get involved though, for the purposes of a bank val for a refi. What other times are you coming out and visiting people's homes to provide a valuation? What other sorts of scenarios?
So just rewind just a tiny bit. When you said I'm talking always about selling, that's because a bank val is always in the interest of the bank in the event that you are a mortgagee in possession and you forfeit on your mortgage and you can't pay it. The bank will want to know because you don't own your home. It's my home. Yeah, bank owns it until you pay it off. And the bank are like, we are lending you money. It's like asking a mate for money. And then they're one of those standover guys that are like, how are you going with the repayments? You know,
I promise I'm on track.
Yeah, but like it's like the mafia, but like not. I'm so accustomed to it. Like now when you think about it, you're like, dude, I'm just owing some like pretty powerful people in a bank institution money for my home. So of course they're going to want to know they're going to get their money back. So who do they employ? Us. Like we're the standover guys if you want to. It's a good plot for a good movie. So the valuer comes like a standover. So what's your house worth? We got to make sure that in the event, we don't care about you. Like no offense. We might be all nice and be like, lovely home you have. But we're like, we don't care. The boss wants to know what it's worth. So we got to make sure that if we sell, we don't care. You could get more, right? Like, I'll get the money by next week. We don't care, mate. Right now, what's it worth? Yeah? Like, you get it. So cool. We can also come out for various reasons if you're getting a divorce. Sorry about that. But the, husband and wife, husband, want to know what the house is worth so they can, That we've got to be really careful. We've got to come right in the middle.
Yeah.
We don't know
How
too
is the
high.
approach different there?
Yeah, we try to be really sensitive and fair on both sides. We're sometimes with the banks, not that we can be conservative, but we just want to make sure that's what it's worth. Like the almost worst case scenario, the bank's happy. But with this, you've got to be a little bit sensitive to both sides and make sure that you're not too low or not too high. And you try really hard to come in nice and neutral. Then there's a stamp duty situation where it's as long as there's no interaction with an agent. So say me and you right here and I'm like, I'll buy your house from you. Yeah, I'll sell it. Like 2 mil. Yeah, shake hands, right? Because no agent got involved. A valuer must come in. I could buy it off you. Mate, you owe me a few favors. I'll buy it for 100 grand. House is worth 2 million. I'm not going to pay stamp duty in 100. I have to pay it on what the valuer comes in at. So with that, everyone wants it as low as possible. I would love to put next to nothing on it. I can't. I'm bound by my code of ethics. So I try to do that as close as I can to what I think it's worth. So there are different purposes. If a government put a highway through your land and you got to get paid out, the valuer establishes that. Your land value, so what you pay your land tax on or your rates, they're all done by valuers. If you capital gains, want to know what your value is, so then you can adjust your capital gains. We do that as well. Commercial valuations for balance sheets. So all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff.
So going into people's homes to value where they live, I'm sure you would have seen some wild stuff. Have you got one top of mind that you'd be prepared to share?
Yeah, so I think I've worked out, look, I've been valuing for 20 years, 20. So I started when I was 12 and I've been into about 16,000 properties I've physically been. So that's 15,000 knocking on the hi, I'm here, hi, I'm here, hi, I'm here. And one stands out. I got a unit, I buzzed the intercom. Hi, it's Belinda the Valuer. I'm here to do the inspection. Are you scared of birds? And I've gone, no, like I'm not a bird kind of scary person type thing. And I've gone, no, all good. I'm come to the front door to get you. Normally they buzz you in. So straight away this was a bit odd. And I've gone, okay. So they've come to the door and they've let me in and they've got feathers and stuff over them, like just a little bit like, and I'm like, okay, this is going somewhere. Get inside and I just hear low key, it's like squawking. And she said, just when you go in, if you're not scared of birds, just don't freak out. So I've walked in and it's like an open aviary in there. And there is like birds flying around, like landing on me. And I'm like, like just screaming on my head, on the kitchen. It's like free for all. I'm walking on the floor's crunchy. The birds are on the kitchen. There's like bird poop running down all over the bench, on the floor, on the couch. It's got like towels everywhere. I'm freaked out at this stage. I don't even know how to start my notes. I'm like looking around trying not to get birds. She's like, you said you're not scared of birds. And I'm like, yeah, one bird, not like
a zoo.
Yeah, zoo. And she's like, don't go in that bedroom. She had like I don't even know at this stage, a hawk or some massive like eagle in a massive cage.
Like a predator bird.
Yes, in a huge cage. She's like, don't let any of the birds get in there. And I'm like, this is chaos. Like, just get me out. The bedroom, she's like, they can't get into the bedroom. I got in the bedroom, it was like 4 in there. And she's like, oh, how did they get in there? I'm like, you think? Like, how do you think they got in there? I walked out and I remember writing up that report. And I had to get my director to help me because I had to put half a page of, we wish to note that we weren't able to correctly assess the condition of the floor or the cabinets, and we think that the house may be condemned, and a willing buyer will look at this and have to replace all the cabinets, and we don't know the condition because they were covered in like it just went on and on.
All disclaimers.
And so the valuation got smashed, as you can imagine. And like, sorry, not sorry, but we have to value it as at that day in that condition. So that one to this day still stands out as the wildest.
That one's going to be with you for a while, I think.
Yes, that one. There's been some crazy ones, but that one, the bird one, stays with me.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yes.
It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. I've only got one last question for you. If people want to learn more, they want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Social media. I would say just type in the Valuer, I pop up. Belinda Botzolis, I pop up.
Fantastic.
Belinda Botzolis, the Valuer, pop up.
Thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. It was good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
These Four Walls is brought to you by Aussie. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts for new episodes every week. For more information, see the show notes to this episode or visit aussie.com.au. The information provided during this podcast is for general informational purposes only. Aussie does not provide financial or investment advice. The information in this podcast does not take account of your objectives, financial circumstances, or needs.